funds, just type into search engine, U.S. Department of Agriculture funds corn crops that sterilize you, and you will get links to them. Oh, but they wouldn't hurt us. I'm sorry. Let's go back to the cannibalism. The report has revealed as that recently as the 18th century. No, this didn't stop. British royalty swallowed parts of the human body. The author adds that this was not a practice reserved to monarchs, but was widespread among the well-to-do in Europe. They've always been predators. They see you as animals. See, let me explain how this works, okay? Let me explain how this works. If you're a new listener and you hear me say that DynCorp and Halliburton it's been admitted in congressional hearings and major newspapers in the country, are running giant white slavery rings, including women and children. That means sex slavery. I always get emails saying, well, don't you care about black slavery? White slavery is sexual slavery. It's like white ops, black ops. It's a name, nothing to do with black people. People can't even think in this country because of political correctness. Oh, you don't want social health care? You're a racist. You're like, what does that have to do with reality? We don't care. We're brainwashed idiots. Side issue. Let me explain how this works. I've been talking about DynCorp and Halliburton and other globalist defense contractors and the UN for 16 years running white slavery worldwide because it's in the BBC. It's in the Associated Press. It just doesn't become the big nightly news item. So, yes, I have been driven crazy to a certain extent by knowing this evil's going on, knowing that the royals drink blood, knowing that Al Gore, it came out in major news back in '99, flies around with a refrigerator full of blood of different blood types. They say, well, it's in case he gets shot, he has blood with him. Well, it's a bunch of different blood types. I know that the royalty has people that wipe their hind ends. And it's actually on the record, but people can't believe reality. I know that there is a practice in Europe still ongoing and a practice by the communist Chinese. Elites have always eaten man flesh. That's why they believe they're the elites. If you go back to the Aztecs, the number one way, and this is on record, mainline anthropology, archaeology, the main way the priest class that ruled the Mesoamerican cultures, Toltec, others up to the Mayan, Aztec, the whole Mayan culture, the daily sacrifices for sunrise, for noon, for the sun setting on big holidays, they would sacrifice more than 10,000 per sacrificial city. I've been to many of them. The main way they funded the priest class was the longhams. And they would, the highest price was child meat, and they would have the daily sacrifices, and the lower priest, it would sell beneath the pyramid in the market the human flesh. Now, every culture does this. This is what happens, and image it as a centrifuge where they spin out the different parts. Here's the analogy. Take blood. They put blood in a centrifuge and they spin it, and the heavier platelets get on the outside, and the dead blood cells, and then the blood cells, and then the plasma that has the white blood cells on the outside. And that's basically what society does. Throughout history, there's always psychopaths on average for every 200 people. There's one psychopath. For every 25 to 30, depends on what statistic you look at, you have a sociopath. And the psychopaths always in society want the power, want the control, want to chain people down and eat them. It's what they like. They are malfunctioning. They are mentally ill. There's something wrong with them. They're predators against their own species, okay? They always recruit the sociopaths, people that just don't care and only care about themselves. They don't so much enjoy killing people or ripping children's teeth out with pliers or burning people's eyes out with hot pokers or boiling people in oil or crucifying people upside down or murdering entire cities or lining a 1,000-mile Roman road with people burning at the stake. But they'll do it if they get the power. They just want a big house and, women. And they always get into power in every case, and that's why the norm, not the exception, is torture dungeons, mass executions, mass raping, slavery, death, and destruction. And that's why I call the Queen of England a disgusting demon. That's why I pull her down. We're told she's this sweet old lady. She is the progeny of European elite. And if you don't believe me, just search the term royalty bloodbaths. There's a reason they call it bloodthirsty. All these terms have a root. Transylvanian royalty, German royalty, French royalty, Dutch royalty. And it's a secret process they reportedly still engage in, but as early as just 60, 70 years ago, it was on record that they would bathe, women especially, in the blood of children. This is one of their favorite things to do. And so all elites do this. They believe it makes them beautiful. And they will slit the child's throat right there at the bathtub, pour it in. These women find it beautiful to watch the child's blood spraying out. Then they get in the bloodbath. Okay? Now, see, I never really even got far on air. I just thought since it's mainstream news right now, British royalty dined on human flesh, I thought I would just bring that up to you. But not so much even the dining on the human flesh. They like to split the head open and get the pituitary gland and eat it. It's the old-fashioned growth hormone. You know, the rich people today spend millions of dollars getting the scores of facelifts and Botox and liposuction and blood transfusions. And oh, yeah, but that's for the lower-level nouveau riche. The British royalty, they like to eat the pituitary gland. And it goes on in the article that it was medical. It was so they'd live longer. But they also enjoyed the dishes. Medical cannibalism. Both Queen Mary II and her uncle, King Charles II, both took distilled human skull on their deathbeds in 1698 and 1685. But again, they did this as late as even 100 years after. Cannibalism was not only found in the New World, as often believed, but also in Europe. Well, of course, it was found in Europe as well. Every culture has psychopaths. Every culture has decadent people that always want to do something new. Always want to satiate themselves with something more bizarre, more insane, more disgusting. Remember the case in New York with the Rolling Stones and the black kid sacrificing the voodoo ritual, but so many high-powered people were there that they didn't even get in trouble? You think movies like Eyes Wide Shut are fiction? No, ladies and gentlemen, Kubrick mysteriously died after he refused to cut out 25 minutes of that film. He died, they cut it. And what do you have in that movie? The wealthy elite of New York going to a palace mansion and having orgies and human sacrifice. Well, this is what they do. I've been to Bohemian Grove. Okay, I just saw the opening ritual, which is a mock human sacrifice, which is an outward image of what is privately done. What do they do at Skull and Bones? ABC News was caught on video worshiping Satan, doing, quote, mock human sacrifice. That's where the elites just put their kids in these things and see which ones like it. And they go, you like doing the mock thing? You know, you've trained now in Little League. Now we're going to move you up from softball to hardball. Okay, I said I'd get to your calls, and I'll get to it. The point is the wiener stuff's nothing compared to this. If you just type into a search engine, Queen who bathed in blood, you'll get Elizabeth Bathory. She would have the court kidnap young maidens, and she thought for her beauty, and she would bathe in their blood. A countess. Wasn't she in Transylvania? That's where one of the vampire legends come from. See, all of these legends come from real places. These people aren't physical, real vampires. They're mentally ill. And of course, the ancient Greeks dealt with, quote, vampires, and they even had vampire hunting parties going around looking for the insane people that would hide out in caves during the day and come out and kidnap people during the night. In fact, what's the psychological... I'm going to do a whole video on this and pull up all the data instead of, just going from memory. There's a psychological term, vampirism, where these mentally ill people think they're vampires. Let me just put that in here, right? Vampirism. Vampirism. There you go. Yep, is a sickness. And it goes over it. Yeah, here it is in the encyclopedia. It says vampirism has existed for millennia. Cultures such as the Mesopotamians, Hebrews, ancient Greeks, and Romans had to deal with people running around thinking they were vampires. And we know who these folks are. See, it's not that they're smarter or even better than us. It's that they're willing to do things that normal people wouldn't do. They're very sick, they're very degenerate, they're very mentally ill, and they lust for power and control. They think war and death is beautiful. And they're trying to now sell the general public on death and torture and murder and sadomasochism to turn our civilization into something that resembles the world they want. They want to bring all this out in the open. And that's what all the Lady Gaga, vampirism, and all that's about for our young girls. That's what the record suicides are about, and little girls cutting themselves up. Parents just turn themselves over to absolute, total evil. And I now have been ranting, and I promise to get to your calls when we start the next hour. And I will go to all of them. But see, that's the problem. Every one of these articles is off the chart important. And, I mean, look at this. Japan confirms total meltdown of 3 of the 6 reactors, partial meltdown of 2. So meltdown at 5, total meltdown at 3. I told you that 2 months ago, and we had the experts on. And I got emails saying, oh, man, you're exaggerating. I've studied nuclear engineering as a layman. I've interviewed top nuclear physicists. I've looked at other cases, and when you see plants blowing up and you see the fuel rods shooting 3,000 feet in the air, and the radiation goes to 7,500 times safe levels, that's total meltdown. They know off the isotopes, the type of isotopes that were released, exactly what happened, and atomic mini-explosions have been confirmed by German, Russian, and British scientists, like Dr. Busby and others we've had on. I mean, they have the isotopes, and it's 100% from laboratory experiments in reactors. They know, well, when you have this isotope number, you know they've had atomic explosions, many explosions there. What do you think shoots fuel rods 3,000 plus feet in the air? Not steam, not a hydrogen explosion. But hey, I don't have to sit here and convince you anymore. CNN, Japanese government admits, total meltdown, total explosion, Chernobyl at 3 of them. And they knew back then. See, told you again, right again, because I'm not spending my time focused on baloney. I am obsessed with knowledge and data and information. And that's why I know the people that run this planet like to kidnap little kids and drink their blood. Okay, we're opening the phones up for the next 30 minutes. And Jesse Ventura joins us, then we'll continue with phone calls. I want to get into this E. coli situation and the history of our government and other governments engineering sterilants into the GMO crops. And the British got caught launching the weaponized foot and mouth, what was it now, 11 years ago, to shut down family farms and sheep farms and ranches and things. They don't call them ranches, but that's what they are. That's coming up. I've got a bunch of other news here, 10 tipping points which could potentially plunge the world into a horrific economic nightmare. We're already plunging into it. We just haven't hit bottom yet. We've got all of that coming up. I've got a bunch of news, but I want to go to your phone calls because I like to rant, folks. And I said I want to get to those, so we're going to do that right now. Wilson in Florida, thanks for holding. Then Ed, Peter, Don, and Kathy. How you listening, Wilson?
I'm listening good. I actually call in from a number that you used to have on your website.
You're listening over the free phone system. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I just have 2 questions, one political and one personal about my marriage to see what do you think. The first one is, I seen a documentary about Che Guevara, and it was pretty interesting. It was from IFC, I think. And I just feel like he was very inspirational. I'm not sure about all the history about him. And I just think from what he wanted people to be educated and to have hospitals and stuff, I just thought that was good about him. I want to see how you seen him in history.
Well, that's obviously propaganda about Che Guevara. Che Guevara, you can pull up the quotes. It basically, called other Latin Americans. He kind of had that Spanish-style elitism that the that the Indian populations were stupid, and that's not been what I found. He talked about wiping out and killing whole groups of people that wouldn't join communism. They glorify him. Look, here's how the globalists operate.